and welcome back to People Do Wanna Know podcast. I am bringing you an incredibly unique guest today. We are the first podcast to bring her on, but you may have seen her viral videos on social media. Let me formally introduce you to Alvah Klempt, a Jewish drag queen. Hailing from the small town of Orono, Maine, Alvah Klempt is the Jewish mother you never asked for. She currently resides in New York City, where she's cultivated a tolerable brand of comedic performance. Personally, I came across Alvah on Instagram when in the same day, 10 friends sent me one of her viral videos and were like, you gotta get her on the pod. The premise of the video I saw was like, is someone trying to flirt with you at a sacred Jewish function? Me too. Here are some comebacks you can use that will turn them off. What came next were some hilarious comebacks using puns, which, if you know me well, you know I love puns. When I lived in Philly, I actually competed in a contest called It's Always Punny in Philadelphia, run by my buddy Aaron. I feel like Alvah would be excellent at this competition, actually. There's also a very good show and competition in New York City called Punderdome. So Alvah, we gotta take you there. Anyway, if you haven't seen these videos yet, I highly recommend you check out Alvah on Instagram at Alvah Klempt. That is spelled ALVAHKLEMPT. But the pun here, in case you didn't piece it together, is Alvah Klempt. And it's very in line with Alvah as a character who is this emotional, overly invested Jewish mother figure that's just so nostalgic and lovable and atrocious at the same time. Alvah is also booking gigs, so if you want an incredible Jewish drag queen at your function, you gotta reach out. In this episode, Alvah and I discuss her rise to fame, where she comes from, what she represents, and we get a little bit of an insight into the glamorous world of drag. I have always wanted to go to like a real drag show, a premiere drag performance, that is. I have only been to one in San Francisco, and it was definitely not premiere. It was called Harry Poofter. It was a drag show retelling of Harry Potter. It was hilarious. Like, I'm even laughing thinking about it now. I love performance and music and costume. I had a ton of fun, and I'm so grateful to now be connected to Alvah, who can show me the ropes of this world. Anyway, you'll love her, so please enjoy. Hello, Alvah Klempt. Welcome to People Do Wanna Know podcast. How are you?
Hi, Margarita. I'm doing lovely. How are you?
I am great. I am so excited to speak with you today because I am not even a secret, but a straight up fan of your work and your videos. And it's just such a privilege to have you on because you truly are such a unique person that it's like the perfect guest for People Do Wanna Know.
See, and I've always thought of myself as more of a person you want to avoid. And so it's really a thrill to be here. I'm truly honored.
Thank you so much. Okay, my first question for you is, tell us about yourself. What do you do and how did you get there?
Yeah, some would say I'm a drag queen. Others would say I'm a mother. I would say I'm a menace to society. I started this journey about 4 years ago when I started messing around with hair and makeup. It was during quarantine. I had always been drawn to drag and to cross-dressing. And then being alone in my room for a long amount of time allowed me to really explore that and develop it. Aside from the passion for drag, I've spent a lot of years working in food service. Back home in my small town of Orono, Maine, my dad had a sandwich shop that I worked in for a while, and that was my day gig, and then drag was the thing that I did when I got home, and I had all this pent-up creative energy. And so having moved to New York, it's a very similar situation. I currently work as a busboy in a restaurant that's near my apartment, and I think about ideas for drag while I'm clearing off the tables, and then when I go home, I do them. And that's pretty much my situation right now.
Wait, that's beautiful. You're a bus queen.
Yeah, I'm a bus something. I'm a busted person. Don't keep that in. Okay. You can't use that. That's too dumb. Your listeners, we don't want them to turn it off so soon. Yeah, I don't know why. A dream job for me was there's a Jewish bakery right near my apartment as well. It's called Bread's Bakery, and they have the most delicious babka. And I went to apply there when I moved here, and they were not hiring. But it's probably for the best that we spare them.
I think you would take their sales to the next level, especially if you showed up in full drag and were like the Jewish mother that you are to the max. They would It would be next level for them. Their sales would skyrocket.
Can you imagine walking into the bakery and this is what's waiting for you?
Yeah, Bread's Bakery, if you're listening.
Bread's
Bakery.
What the
fuck? What the fuck?
We need to get on it. Because is there information you're not sharing through your online application portal? We need to just know what's going on behind the scenes.
And talk to me about Alvah as a character and what she represents to you. Who is Alvah? What is she like? Help us conceptualize Alvah Klempt.
Well, I'll do my best. I wasn't always Alvah Klempt, which is probably important to know. I was always very emotional. I wasn't always Alvah Klempt. What happened was I started drag, right, like I said, about 4 years ago. And then I was going by a different name and I was still figuring out what I wanted the identity to be. There was always a dramatic kind of emotional piece to it, but I didn't put that all together just yet. And then around probably like a year into my drag journey, I came up with the name Matzo Ball. And that was what I performed under in Maine when I was performing there. And then when I arrived in New York, I really wanted to pursue drag more ferociously. And I felt that, I don't know, just Matzo Ball didn't click for me anymore. It didn't feel like it totally captured the persona that I wanted to create. And eventually I was thinking about something that signals Jewish, but could also, I love pun names. I love names that could also function as just like a regular woman's name if you didn't know the pun. There's names that I love that are like that. And Alvah Klempt came about because I thought Alvah and Klempt were both, it's like a weird ass name, but it also, if you know, you know. So there's that piece of it. And then on the conceptual level, let me start by saying that my favorite kind of drag, I guess my favorite kind of drag queenhood is when it's a kind of a tribute or like a love letter to like femininity and womanhood. And like, that's what drag is to me. And I should add the caveat that drag is different things to every single person that does it, every single person that interacts with it. So there's lots of different definitions of drag. And, you know, for drag kings, it's something completely different. For drag things, it's something completely different. And there's all kinds of different approaches. But for me, being a drag queen is a really fun way to like just uplift the kind of like woman that you're trying to portray, I guess. So for me, Alvah is my love letter to the Jewish mothers of the world, especially my own, especially my Jewish grandmother. They've inspired me so much. They've really shaped the way I look at the world. So this character, this persona that I've created is my tribute to them and the lessons they've taught me, and also send up on the whole personality. Like, it's meant to be not serious. It's meant to be tongue-in-cheek. And so that's also where it comes from. That's how I would describe it.
Let me tell you, you delivered. You delivered.
I really appreciate it. I tried.
Now, I was curious about your upbringing because I'm not very familiar with the Jewish community in Maine in general.
Oh,
and
no.
You said that this drag queen and highlighting the femininity of the women in your lives was important for you when creating Alvah. What was your Jewish upbringing like?
It's a great question. The level of engagement kind of varied throughout my growing up experience. At first, in my early childhood, it was very, very hands-on. Like, we kept kosher in the house. We put all the leavened food away for Passover. We fasted. Like, we did all of that. We went to synagogue every Saturday. I grew up going to a conservative synagogue. It was one of two synagogues that existed in a 45-minute radius of where we lived. So there wasn't this thriving scene. I remember being one of the only Jewish kids in my school, in my class. So I guess by virtue of that, I think there was a lot growing up that I didn't know about Judaism, despite the engagement that my family had with it, just because I was one of the only representatives of the culture and religion that I had around me, besides my family and the people I went to synagogue with. I wouldn't say that we grew up as aggressively Jewish as a lot of kids who grew up in, say, New York or maybe even like LA. Like, it's not quite the same. But I did go to Hebrew school. I had a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah. I had a bat mitzvah. I had a b'nai mitzvah. And we'll leave it at that. And then as I grew up, the proximity to like synagogue and the Jewish community where I was kind of waned. I was sort of, full disclosure, I was probably one of those kids that got through the coming of age, the becoming an adult in the eyes of the Jewish community, and then went on to pursue opportunities in the larger community. But I've always felt the kinship to Judaism, and I've always really resonated with the belief system. Wherever I was in proximity to like going to synagogue every week, I've always resonated with the ideology. And when I got to college, I went to school in Boston and I was part of Hillel there. It was really cool to just be surrounded by 100% more Jewish people than I had grown up being surrounded by. I think that gave me a new appreciation too. It also awoke some insecurities about like, oh God, did I not grow up Jewish enough? And like, maybe I identify more with it than I should. That's been my relationship with Judaism, I guess, in a nutshell, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. And just thinking about it, to go and take this upbringing that you had and your heritage and to apply it to drag, it's ballsy, for lack of a better word, because I feel like within the drag community, it's not so common for people to do that, because usually bringing your faith and your culture is like the opposite of what drag is, because drag is supposed to be about being open and fun and not restrictive, not limited by the bounds of the reality that you live in. But you were actually able to prove the opposite by showing how being Jewish is integral to being who you are, like to being open, to being fun, to demonstrating to others what your essence is. So when did you know that Alvah had to be Jewish?
Well, you make such interesting points here. And I hadn't really considered that drag might be sort of antithetical to like expression of faith. I don't know if I'd really thought of that. And I guess in my mind, I don't think of like my Judaism as this binding, restrictive force in my life. I think of it as more of a lens through which my point of view comes through. Like it colors my perception of the world. And something really important to me in drag is that point of view. I love when a queen has a brand, has an identity, has like something they do that not every drag queen does. What can I see you do that I can't find at another drag queen's performance? And so I did notice that there was this lack of representation of this uniquely Jewish point of view. And I want to say, because I get a lot of comments on my videos, like, finally a Jewish drag queen, when there's never been Jewish drag queens before. And I am really inspired by Jewish drag queens that have come before me. There's certain ones that come to mind who have made it part of their brand and their identity. Miss Cracker, if you're familiar with her. Jinx Monsoon is another one. She introduced herself as Seattle's premier Jewish narcoleptic drag queen. Super inspiring to me. I live, and I do think there's more queens in the community than people realize who are incorporating their Judaism into their identity. Alexis Michelle is a really good example. I know she wore a Star of David on her season of Drag Race and was very vocal about her Jewish upbringing. And so I think it's more common than people realize for drag queens to do this. There's a sort of intersection, I think, of there's a certain judginess and a certain theatricality. There's an intersection between a gay person who grew up Jewish and a gay person who's interested in doing drag. There's certain connections there. So I want to say that because I feel sometimes concerned that people think of me as the like premier Jewish drag queen. And I feel it's important for people to know, like, I'm building on something that's already been here. To answer your question, though, because I'm realizing I have not answered your question, which was, when did you know Alvah had to be Jewish? There wasn't really any queen that I saw that was like the Jewish mom. There wasn't a queen that was a tribute act to Jewish motherhood. And for me, the other space that I noticed, the other gap that I found, because, I love to find a gap, is ask anyone. The other gap that I noticed was a lot of drag queens are very focused on being the epitome of kind of this poised, glamorous, composed, sparkly. There's this very over-the-top, hyper-feminine, hyper-glamorous version of drag that is very, very popular. And I feel there is a woeful lack of stupid, dorky, sweater vest, kooky drag. I want to see more drag queens who are paying homage to like the kind of woman who isn't necessarily traditionally glamorous, but is over the top, is sort of this campy persona. Like, for me, that is like the ladies that I grew up with going to synagogue. Like, they're drag queens to me in their own way. But most drag queens, I find, wouldn't think of that as like a source of inspiration. Like, they wouldn't draw on that kind of dragginess and campiness to create their persona because it's not what is generally popular. The question of when I knew Alvah needed to be Jewish, I just knew I wanted to be this kooky, over-the-top, exaggerated, but very like uncool, like fundamentally uncool character. And for me, that just resonated with the Jewish mom that I had. And I should say my mom's very cool. My mom is a cool mom. Let me clarify in case she's listening, because she will be. My mom is a cool mom. And I kind of wanted to pay tribute to the cool mom aesthetic as well and be that character. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, it just makes me think that There's something about Jewish moms where the delivery is so hilarious that you're like, did this really just come out of their mouth?
Yes.
But at the same time, like, they're not wrong.
No, very rarely are they wrong. And, yeah.
So it just makes me laugh because it's so theatrical and so dramatic, but then it's like, am I wrong? And it's like, no, you're not.
No, like I should have called that day. Yeah, no, like you're right. Yeah, they're always right. It's always a valid point. There's always a valid concern about the world and about the dangers that lie ahead. It's so draggy to me. Like the whole notion of this theatrical mom. I guess like the other thing that I feel like I should say is I guess when I think of like Jewish mother, the first thought isn't necessarily like the faith aspect of it. For me, it's a lot more like culturally, behaviorally, like there's an essence of the Jewish mother that is outside of synagogue and tradition, and it's more rooted in like the personality and the mannerisms, and that is the biggest source of inspiration for me and this whole character. So she needed to be Jewish for that reason is the other thing. Is there's an attitude, there's a way of looking at the world that you only get being brought up this way. And so that's something that I feel like I needed to tap into as well.
Have you seen Nobody Wants This or no?
No, but I feel like I've heard about it. Wait, catch me up.
Yeah, so Nobody Wants This is a new show on Netflix starring Kristen Bell and the hot rabbi whose name I forget.
Okay.
But it's an acclaimed cast. Like, there are a lot of great actors in the cast. And the premise of the show is Kristen Bell plays a non-Jewish woman who falls in love with a guy who's a rabbi. He's like maybe a reformer conservative rabbi. And so obviously his family doesn't support it. And the rabbi kind of says, look, if this is going to go somewhere, I'm going to need you to convert. And so the season ends on like a will she, won't she convert kind of thing. There's this dramatic thing. But like their love on the show is very pure. And it's honestly the first time I've seen in a long time a healthy relationship portrayed on TV, which I think is the part that made the show so comforting for me. Yeah. But it got a lot of shade, the show, from Jews for a few reasons. The first criticism of many, because it's the Jewish audience, obviously. Yeah. It was one of like 2,000. Basically, considering that right now 1 in 4 Jewish people end up marrying out, the concern was, why would we go out of our way to create shows that promote the idea of marrying out if 1 in 4 people continue to partake in interfaith marriages? Before we know it, there are going to be no Jews. I don't think that's a fair criticism. I think the moral of the story here is to continue raising your kids to want to build Jewish families with the right people, no matter who those people are, and continue to instill Jewish values in your family. And whether that's with Jews or people who want to be part of the Jewish people, that's up to everyone to decide on their own. That wasn't a super valid criticism or the number one most concerning criticism for me. The other criticism was how the women on the show were portrayed. So the hot rabbi in question has a mom. The mom is doing everything in her power to make sure that his relationship with the non-Jewish Kristen Bell falls apart. And then we've got the hot rabbi has an older brother. The older brother is married to a Jewish woman. That Jewish woman is a gossip. She is nagging him. She is kvetching. She's a big old bitch. Okay? Just like a sore. And here's what I thought about that. One, it's kind of true how they portrayed these women. I think Jewish women can be complainy and demanding and difficult. It's the Jewish condition.
We know what we want. We know what's good for us and for the people around us.
But I also think what they failed to highlight is why Jewish women are demanding and difficult and complaining. And if you look at the wife, the bitchy wife, if you look at the older brother, it's because he's not reliable, he's a schmuck, he never shows up on time, he's a mess, he's all over the place. And listen, if you weren't that way, you wouldn't have a complaining, demanding wife. Like, full stop. So it felt that the show portrayed Jewish women according to the stereotype, but it didn't portray Jewish men according to that stereotype. And the rabbi who dates the non-Jewish Kristen Bell, In the show, he opens every door for her. He plans every date. He's super loving. He's just the best, okay? That's not the reality of Jewish men today. And I can say that as a single woman with a lot of dating experience. And it just felt like if you're going to jab in both directions. Like, don't pick and choose. So that was my criticism of the show.
That's super interesting. I agree. And I understand where you're coming from. And the criticisms from viewers are really interesting too. And that's something that comes up for me is like, I never want to inadvertently set the community back in my portrayal of the Jewish mom character. It's very important to me personally, I guess, to portray this character and like this archetype in a way that's like loving and respectful and comes from a place of like gratefulness that this is the kind of figure I had growing up. I think that like the point of view that you develop as a result of being raised by a Jewish mother is really valuable and it's rare. And for me, it's like a tribute. And I think that it's an interesting point that the line between like tribute and like mockery is very thin and can be in different places for everyone. And it's interesting because it's a broader debate in drag too. Like the question of when a drag queen is paying tribute to women versus mocking women. That's a talking point in the drag community as well. It's come up a lot more recently. So it's interesting that there's also this debate within just our own community of how Jewish mothers and Jewish women are portrayed. It's so interesting.
I had no idea that was a debate that was going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because there was an example. I hate that all my examples are coming from Drag Race. Support local drag. That said, on RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 8, there was a queen who walked in and she was in this full latex bodysuit with these giant boobs, tiny waist, giant hips. It was very caricature-y, very over-the-top, exaggerated. And this particular queen, Jimbo, is known for her giant boobs. And like that's part of her look. And when that episode aired, there was a lot of discourse on Twitter from people everywhere, but it was Twitter. People saying, wow, Jimbo is mocking women. Like this is completely making fun of women. And so it brought up this question of like, is she or is it poking fun at this over exaggerated caricature of womanhood? That's not actually how women are. Like it's, like when is it a mockery and when is it a loving tribute? It's just an interesting question that comes up a lot. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah, but part of this also makes me think like drag is not always supposed to be a representation of reality. If anything, it should allow you to escape reality. So in some sense, some of the things that are portrayed are not meant to be neither a tribute nor a mockery because they're just beyond what reality really is. It's just it's world building, it's character building.
No, I completely agree. I think in that particular instance also brought up the question of like, because drag it's always been this over-the-top, escapist art form where like the whole point is to be boundary pushing and be on the fringe of what society says is acceptable. So it's an interesting question of like when that goes too far, like to what extent are you allowed to push the boundaries? When does it become, okay, that's too far? And that's too edgy and that's too much like a caricature. It's too over the top. Like some people would argue there is no line. It's just the audience's comfort level. I don't personally know where I guess I totally stand on it. I do see drag as like a boundary pushing art form. And I think that's what it's always been. And that's what it should continue to be. So I do think it's risky territory if we start saying like drag queens can or can't be this. Like they can or cannot be portrayed in this way. They can't express themselves certain ways because it might, in my mind, it horseshoe effects all the way back into being like the same talking points that conservatives make about us sometimes. Like the conservatives are also saying drag queens go too far and push the boundaries too much and they're mocking women. And so it's funny that the same argument does come from like extremes on both ends. There's people on both sides who think drag queens go too far and are mocking as opposed to paying loving tribute. And so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still in the camp of I don't take it that seriously. To me, it's a performance, it's entertainment, and it doesn't have to be real. And in fact, it's even more fun when it's surreal. Agreed. This also kind of reminded me of Cabaret. I don't know if you've seen any of the latest stagings of Cabaret.
I have not. I have not.
Right now, Adam Lambert is performing the role of MC.
Yes.
And Actually, I was so excited. I have seen Cabaret before with Eddie Redmayne. I really enjoyed it. But the thing about Eddie is he portrayed the role of a Nazi very well because he had this sterile vibe about him. And I was interested to see Adam in the role because Adam played very much the more flamboyant gay. And this show, Cabaret, which talks about a fictional story during the time of the Holocaust, it came out in the 70s. And as part of the show, there's a scene where the MC brings out a gorilla and he starts singing. And I don't know if you know the song, but he starts singing, "If you could see her through my eyes, surely you would understand." And like, how could you not love her? If only you could see her through my eyes. And then at the end, he sings, "Then you wouldn't notice that she's Jewish at all." And that came out in the 70s, okay? And it was meant to show the just disgusting nature of the vile anti-Semitism that came out. But even experiencing that as an audience today in 2024, as a Jewish person, it's very hard. Even when you know it's coming. I knew it was coming, that the MC's bringing out the monkey. And it's just, an actor in a gorilla suit having the gorilla dance on stage to still hear the words, then you wouldn't even know she's Jewish. You wouldn't even care that she's Jewish, this monkey. If only you could see her the way that I see her. It was still very jarring. And you might argue that, are we taking it too far? And I think no, because sometimes those vile emotions, sometimes those difficult emotions are really important to experience as part of a performance in order to fully grasp how profound the thought is or how important the thought is. I sound very meta. I sound like an 8th grade English teacher right now.
No, I'm living for it. I got along very well with my 8th grade English teachers, just so you know. I really agree with you. I think that it's really important to confront the horrors in situations like that. I think that's valuable. I think that there's a lot to be learned from it. I just think it gives a better sense of reality and I guess appreciation for the world we live in now, even as scary as that can be. I took a class in college that was like a Jewish studies class, and we talked a lot about the Holocaust, and there was a lot of videos we watched that I'd never seen before, and like content that was part of our curriculum that I just wouldn't have been exposed to. And it's really tough shit to be exposed to, obviously, but it also, I had never felt such a gratitude for being able to do this openly, like being able to go out and be openly Jewish, openly gay, both at the same time. Lethal combo, by the way. And to do that without fear, or at least the same level of fear that someone living years ago would have felt. Sometimes the only thing that gives you that perspective is to be exposed to what it was like for the people that came before us and really take an unflinching look at it. So for me, I agree with you. I think it's important to be confronted with that.
You have to experience the harsh opposite end of the spectrum to experience the other end of the spectrum. Okay, yeah. I digress. Now, what I'm curious about is how you've experienced the drag community coming in as a Jewish, not only as a Jewish performer, but as a Jewish drag queen specifically, whose whole vibe is to be Jewish. Talk to me about being part of the community and experiencing that.
So I'll give a bit of a disclaimer, which is that I moved to New York about 4 or 5 months ago. So I am still like, this is really my first time being immersed in a fully fleshed out like drag scene and drag community. And so I'm still learning and figuring my way through a lot of the social dynamics and like meeting new people and being part of it. So I'm not coming at this question from a place of, I've done this for years and I know exactly what it is. So this answer, if you ask me this in a year, this might be a totally different answer. For right now, I've felt really supported, really embraced by the community. And I think some of what it comes down to is I'm just doing something different. Like a lot of the feedback I've gotten from other queens in the New York scene is I haven't seen this before. And that's really exciting. And there's also a lot of the drag I've been doing is a lot of the performances have been in Brooklyn, where I don't know if we're familiar with the Jewish community in Brooklyn, but yeah, there's obviously a lot there. And so people really embrace the whole like Jewish mother thing, especially in those circles, because it's familiar. So far, I haven't found it to be like putting me at a disadvantage. It's given me a unique angle that not many other queens are bringing, but it's something that people resonate with and respond to. And it evokes like their upbringing experience. And so that's been really cool, is to just, because what I'll say is there's a difference between like someone who comes up and says like, hey, I love your performance, I like, you're so fun. And then someone who grew up with an Alvah Klempt in their life, and like the appreciation and the relatability is so much greater. And so it's been incredible to feel like it's resonated with people and that people, that's what I'm trying to do, I guess, I want to share in the appreciation of this character and this archetype that so many of us know. Okay, something else that I'm thinking about is how it's different in person versus like online. Because I think you found me probably through Instagram. And that's been a really big catalyst for a lot of the attention that I've gotten recently has predominantly come from Instagram because I've had these videos go viral. And the correspondence on Instagram has been amazing and weird and like exciting. And I've thought about it a lot because you have a lot of people in my comments who are saying like, this is everything, like you're everything I didn't know I needed. Like I've been waiting for someone like, like all of those things that are so lovely to hear. And then you also get the comments that are like, you're a freak, like get lost. Or like, oh, I had this one comment that I was so interested by. There was like, you're disrespecting your heritage with this. This is bringing shame to your community. And this isn't what we should, like, this is not appropriate. And so that's something that I grapple with too. And it's been interesting to hear that perspective. And I knew that if these videos got a lot of attention, that anything that goes viral, you're going to get hate comments. But it is interesting, like, where those hate comments will come from, the emotional place that they're coming from. And some people really seem to feel like what I do is disrespectful. And it's disheartening for me because I have so much respect for my community and for specifically the women that inspire this persona. Like, I have so much reverence for all of it. And I'm pretty secure in the knowledge that that's true. Like, I know for myself that what I'm doing is coming from a place of love and respect and appreciation. I'm okay if the odd Instagram commenter doesn't get it. I think not everyone's going to, such as being a drag queen. So I guess that is to say, like, when I do get feedback like that, it doesn't get me down too much because I know what I'm doing this for. And there's also people like you who get it and appreciate it and see where it's coming from. And I think that's the other thing. And so there's been tough moments where I've felt guilty and maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe this is bad. Maybe I'm wrong. And at the end of the day, I think there's no experience more Jewish than that.
I think it's also a sign that you have to keep going because when you're uncomfortable is when you know you've struck gold on something that's worth exploring. So kudos to you. I didn't know you just came in there 4 or 5 months ago, swept everyone up, and now you're just out in these streets dragging. The funny thing is, I've gotten all this attention online and on Instagram, but it hasn't yet translated to like real world performance opportunities. So you're catching me at this weird time in my career trajectory where I've got like a lot of new followers. I've got attention on me on Instagram, but I'm not getting like booked left and right in the New York drag scene yet. Like that has still yet to come for me. I'm still performing at the open stages and just trying to pick up gigs where I can. And so hopefully that changes. But for right now, I would not say that I've swept up the New York scene just yet. I think there's a lot of work still to do before I could come close. Yet is the right word in that sentence. That is the key word in that sentence. Now, talk to me about some of your favorite drag clubs in New York City.
I was excited about this question. So the first one that comes to mind is one that actually my partner's mother introduced us to. I hadn't heard of this place before, but her hairdresser knows the owner. And so it's called Lips. Have you heard of this place? It's incredible. And there's several locations. So they're not just in New York, but I think New York is the flagship location. And it's like the premier drag dinner venue. And so you go and it's this gorgeous space, LED lights, there's wallpaper, it's timeless. It feels like you've stepped into like this alternate universe where it's run by drag queens. Like that's how it feels. And it's a restaurant environment, which you get dinner and a show. And the queens are the waitresses and they're the entertainment. And so you have your order taken by your drag queen server and they have the nice rapport with you and they talk to you, they get to know you, and then they perform. And it's the most jaw-dropping, incredible performances. Like some of the best live drag I've ever seen was at this venue. And it's so much more fun when you get to eat. And then it's also so much more fun when you know the person that's performing a little bit because they've already been at your table. Like it's just such a fun experience. It's always a really fantastic time. So Lips is one of my top recommendations. And then the other one is $3 Bill, which is kind of like, I feel like if you ask any drag queen who works in Brooklyn, like, where's your favorite venue, or like, where's a venue that, you know, you'd love to perform, or at least maybe that's just my perception, but $3 Bill is a longstanding Brooklyn venue that does a lot of really cool and very high production value shows. There's a queen that I have gotten to know a little bit since moving here named Nikki O. She's absolutely incredible at drag. Like, and not only at drag, but at marketing, which is something that I have so much respect for. I consider myself a branding queen. And so I'm always blown away when someone can do that. And Nikki O has really found this brand for herself. And she puts on these regular shows at $3 Bill that will just be very high production value, not only in the quality of the performances, but just there'll be a video that airs like on the screen before the performances start. And that is so fancy to me. And like, there's like a screen outside the venue that shows like the poster for it. It's just so put together. It's so branded. It's so clean and just an amazing experience. And $3 Bill is a lot more, I would say, grungy isn't the right word, but it's a little bit more like edgy than a Lips, because Lips is like very much on the showgirl end of the spectrum. You've got the queens who are from like the pageant world, or the queens who it's like very classic old school style drag at Lips, versus what you get at like a $3 Bill is a lot more, it can sometimes feel more fringe, a little bit more, I don't know. It's just different vibes, but both are absolutely incredible, transformative experiences. You'll never be the same after both of these. So those are my recommendations. Those are my favorites.
Thank you. We will have to take a People Do Want to Know field trip.
Yes. We're going to all take you to either of those. Because you're in New York
I'm only
too, right?
going when you're performing.
Oh my gosh.
Because I'm going to see you perform.
Oh yeah. Give me about 10 years.
Now, I have just a couple of questions left for you, but one of the things that I wanted to pick your brain on was you're in this interesting point in time for yourself where you started a new chapter, you're doubling down on doing this whole drag thing, and you've learned a lot. Are there any words of advice or lessons you've learned that you want to share?
Yeah, I was thinking about this before. I'm thinking of this audience specifically because I imagine that the majority of your listeners are tribe members such as ourselves. And I think there is so much beauty and excitement and fun in bringing your Jewish identity into the creative work you do. Having it be the lens, like having it inform your point of view, I think is like so powerful. And I think it's what we need more than anything, honestly. Right now is obviously a very turbulent time for people in the Jewish community. We're wrestling with, I think, even more than we normally wrestle with. We're going through more guilt and ideological turmoil than normal, which is saying a lot for us. That's saying a lot, I think. And there's this question, I feel, of what's the right way to be Jewish right now, or what's the best thing you can do for your community, and like, how do you communicate where you stand and what you stand for? That's something I wrestle with a lot. What I've concluded, at least right now, is that I think that by virtue of just being like a visible Jewish queer person whose mission is to bring joy to people and to bring people together over shared experience, I don't think it's fair necessarily to ask more of yourself all the time than that. I think that just being openly Jewish, allowing yourself to be visible and be seen as you are, and using your point of view to connect people is, for me, like, that's the advice. I think that's like the piece that's the most important to me. And I feel like if nothing else feels right, because this is complicated, like it's complicated shit we're dealing with right now. And there's a lot of contradictions and there's a lot of moral questions of where do you stand? And the messages you're hearing from certain Jewish people in your community might be completely opposite the messages you're hearing from other people that you trust and admire and respect. I think a lot of us are going through that right now. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think there's a lot of that, at least in my own experience and the experience of my peers. I think just knowing to know what you can ask of yourself and like what's fair to expect of yourself as a Jewish person and in a really scary and uncertain time. You know, it's okay to be visible and it's okay to not know all the answers and to just start with trying to bring joy. That's my advice.
I absolutely love that. And how can people connect with you on social media and learn more about your work?
You think they'll want to?
Yeah, I know they'll want to.
Yeah, I'm Alvah Klempt on every platform. So it's ALVAH KLEMPT. I'm also on Venmo. If you feel so inclined to tip to your local queens, really that's the most important platform to find me on. If nothing else, that's what I'll say.
Awesome. And I have one final question for you. It's one that I ask every single guest of the podcast. Who would you like to nominate for People Jew Wanna Know?
I'm going to nominate my own Jewish mother. I think she'd be a lovely guest for you. And she's amazing. I don't want to share her full name. Her name's Jessica. I haven't run this by her. But if anyone is a person that you want to know, it is her.
Wait, make sure not to tell her you nominated her until after she hears the episode, and at the end she can be surprised. So don't say a single thing until then.
Oh, and you're asking a lot of me to keep a secret from my mom. I hope you know.
Wait, going back to Cabaret, it's like that song, if you see my mama, mom's the word.
We'll keep this one quiet until the episode airs.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing this, Alvah. This has been a real privilege.
Margarita, the pleasure's all mine. It's seriously been incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please go ahead and rate us 5 stars. Be the first to hear our episodes by subscribing to People Jew Wanna Know wherever you get your podcasts. And for exclusive content, follow us on Instagram at People Jew Wanna Know.